Thanks for tuning in to Stark Reality. Financial empowerment on the road to personal freedom. My name is Gregory Starks. I'm your host. And we hope and pray that you get something out of this episode of Stark Reality. Thank you. I want to say thank you for joining in on this installment of Stark Reality. On this episode, I'm going to be changing things up a little bit. I'm going to change the tone. I'm going to, as in the Sherlock Holmes movie, the first one, where Lord, I don't remember his name, but whatever it was, he told Sherlock Holmes he need to widen his gaze. And that's exactly what I'm doing, widening the gaze. I'm going to widen my gaze. Now, over the last several episodes, what I've been doing is talking about credit and talking about how to get homes and how to maneuver your way around credit. Why did I start there? Because credit is basically the building block of everything that comes after it. The first thing you need to do is you need to get your credit straight. The only way you can manipulate your life properly is you first got to have good credit. And that's not to say that you need to use credit for everything. No. That's saying that when your credit is right, you'll get an opportunity to have more leverage to do the things that increase your quality of life. So, in the first episode, I talked about getting a house. Well, you can't buy a house but two ways. You can buy cash and you can finance it. Or you can borrow it. You can get it handed down to you. But to accumulate a home, that's what it's going to take. And not only that, if you want to rent an apartment, if you want to rent, you have to have a history. And they're going to look at your credit history. There are jobs that are going to look at your credit report, that are going to look and see what your credit score is before they give you a job, before they trust you. Because if you don't have this primary discipline, it tells other things about you. It gives other clues to what your character is. How committed are you in certain ways? Now, we all run into issues financially. Sometimes you up, sometimes you down. I mean, that's basically the game of cash flow. Cash flows are up sometimes, and cash flows are down sometimes. But it's the difference between being broke and being poor. Being in poverty is a circumstance that you probably have to face as being something that can be eternal. It's like a terminal disease to be in poverty. You look at what's going on with the country right now. You look at how now Biden's in office. What he's doing is he's trying to end childhood poverty by throwing a bunch of money at it, right? But if you don't got the principles to know how to manage that money, what good is that money going to do you? You end up blowing it. So with that said, the reason I do this thing, the reason I'm doing this stark reality is because I think a lot of people need a dose of reality. Myself included, I need a dose of reality at times. I feel like sometimes we need to be reminded of certain things. A lot of things that I'm saying has probably already been said a million times. But sometimes we need to be reminded every now and then to get ourselves back on track. Sometimes we need a kick of reality to let us know that we still need to make improvements, that we still got a ways to go, that we still haven't made it yet. Those who have already made it, good for you, and I'm proud for you in your journey. Maybe this ain't for you, but maybe it is, because maybe you have a high income, but your expenses outweigh what you bring in. Sometimes you need to be reminded that when you want to go out and you want to show your money, you want to buy fly stuff, you want to look good in front of everybody else to show how well you are doing. Are you really doing well? In some cases, you might be, but are you really doing well just because you look good? I mean, we can carry it well. We look good on the outside, but we could be dying on the inside. The suit covers up what's going on in the inside. The car covers up what's going on in the inside. The house in the neighborhood that you can't afford to be in covers up what's going on inside. The landscaping covers up the turmoil that might be going on inside the home, right? Be real for a second. What good is raising your children in a house that you can't give to them afterwards, that you can't keep up on, that you've refinanced it and reverse mortgaged it to the point where you owe so much money on you end up upside down, and then something happens and you have to go live with your kids anyway. You don't have the house paid off, then you pass it on to your kids, and you really just leave them a bill for them to have to pay for it. You at least should have enough there to cover whatever home, that way you can pass it down. I mean, say that you buy a home and you raise your kids up in it. Maybe your kids are doing well and they don't need that house. But what if those kids could take that house, rent it, and split up the proceeds from it and make a profit from it every month? What if they don't owe anything on it and the property value goes up and then they can make straight profit off of it? That's a few $100s a month, or however many kids you got, could be thousands of dollars a month that they can just put in their pocket. That's extra for the rest of their lives, and then for their kids' lives, and then for the next generation. This is extra money they can use to start their own business, to start their side hustle, to get themselves out of a position of bad credit, to kill off some debt. Say that they owe credit card loans or something like that. Student loans. Everybody who went to college has probably got some student loans, right? Those student loans are a killer. The student loans are pretty much have become this concoction in order to raise the price of education. But since you got student loans and people want to advance, what they'll do is they'll go to college and they'll pay those student loans in hopes of getting a good job through this education. So they'll go apply for this job, put in their resume. They'll put that I have a college degree or diploma, whatever. I have this on my resume. So that gets me in the door. So what happens when you get in the door? You realize that college really didn't prepare you for this. All those years while you were working, staying up, doing all that busy work, didn't really prepare you for working, because most of that stuff you forgot, depending on how quick you got through it. If you had to breeze through it, you got two ways. You can either finish fast or you can finish slow. If you finish fast, you're going to be flying through everything so fast that you're really not even retaining. You're just doing it just enough so that you can get through it and then go on to the next one, go on to the next one, go on to the next one. If you go slow, you don't remember what you did at the beginning of the program. And then they got the general education that doesn't necessarily prepare you for the classes up to come. They don't necessarily prepare you for the life that comes after. The prerequisites really just kind of weed you out because you're taking classes that aren't focused on what you're actually there to do. And so you spend all this extra time. So you spend a year and a half, 2 years doing things that you really might not even be interested in. And these prerequisites really don't matter when it comes to what you actually went to college for, what you're paying for. A general education makes you basically just a person who can have a basic conversation about a bunch of meaningless things, probably. They don't teach you politics. That's not one of your general education things. Now you go from to school from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade before you go to college, and you take English every year. Why do you need more English and composition at that point? You've taken math since you were a child all the way up to high school. Why are you not prepared mathematically already when you get to college? Why do you need more math? You take history class. Why do you need more history? You look at psychology and sociology. Now, psychology would be very beneficial if it could actually tell you how to properly navigate your mental constraints. If it could tell you how to get the most out of your life, the most out of yourself, it would be great. But it doesn't really teach you that. It teaches you a history of some people who learned a few things, and then you have to memorize what they learned. And it doesn't really give you the blueprint of how to handle your own mental uh, mental health. You look at something like physical education. You go to gym class and they teach you how to play games together, but they don't teach you about your blood pressure. They don't teach you about your blood sugar. They don't teach you about how to ward off diseases. They don't teach you about your nutrition, how to keep your health, how to keep your weight. It doesn't teach you any of that. So here we are with this educational system that charges you thousands upon thousands of dollars that people can't afford in order to go to a college to get a job that they're not prepared for so that they can make money that they don't know how to handle. And this 4 year degree that you hope will make you a decent amount of money just got you a bill that you're going to pay for the next 30, 40, or 50, or maybe for the rest of your life. A bill. Now, that's not to say that you can't gain from going to college. I think there's a lot of valuable information to be gained from going to college. I think also there's a need for higher learning, of course, um, because with all honesty, there's not a lot of jobs or great careers that are well paying that exist anymore that don't require some type of extra education. The well paying careers that don't require a college degree are fizzling away. They're not as prevalent as they were 50 years ago. But the thing was, 50 years ago, the school system was designed to prepare kids for the real world. It was designed to prepare them for the industry in which they were living in at the time. Does it still do that? I can't tell you that because I don't know what's the world's going to be like 10 years from now. So if you're a parent, you really got to be like taking a really good look at what they're teaching your kids in school. How are they being prepared? Now, if there's a lack there and they're not preparing your kids and you have the foresight to know what they'll need, it's probably going to be incumbent on you to fill those gaps, to supplement those areas in which your child is losing because they're going to be spending all this time in education learning, but are they learning the things that are going to make their life better? Because I mean, let's look at it. If your kid has qualities of uh, maybe music, and they don't offer music, you've got to do that supplementally. If your child has some kind of technical skills in regards to working with technology, or say they have a love or affinity for computers, if your school doesn't offer that, you have to supplement that somehow. You may have to come straight out your pocket and make that investment. But that early investment might save you money on the back end, might save your child money on the back end. Because if they're in a position where they can just walk into the workforce because they're already prepared, they can forego the college degree route because they already got what they need and they already knew what they wanted to do. Or you looked at what their aptitudes were and you cultivated them. Now I'm kind of veering off, I guess, the reality session of my Stark Reality is getting more real uh, than the topic at hand. But for future episodes, I will be spreading this thing out and talking about more issues, talking about more significant stuff as opposed to just the straight. Okay, here's your credit. This is how you do that. So I gave 15 minutes on why the credit is important. So now I'm gonna give the next half on why you need to get your credit straight. What are the benefits of getting your credit score up? What are the benefits of fixing your credit? I alluded on some of them early. I hit a few points, but I'm gonna give a little bit more in depth from here. So, number one thing, so you don't have to pay cash for everything. Like I mentioned, when it came to cash flow, when it comes to having enough cash to supplement your life to be able to take care of things, sometimes your cash flow is low and sometimes your cash flow is high. When you have low cash flow, and some things can't be paid for on credit, you got to pay cash for your utility bills sometimes. There's certain things that you can't pay on credit, so you need to keep your cash. And sometimes you'll maneuver and use credit on certain things so that you can keep your cash for other things because you never know when you might need your cash. If you don't have to pay cash for everything, when it comes to time where you just need some money, you should have some now. The first thing that everybody should do is have a savings where you automatically, out of every check you get, you automatically put a certain amount of money, whether it be $20, $30, $100, as much as you possibly can. It's called paying yourself first. To pay yourself first means whatever money I get before I pay a bill, before I give any money to a creditor, Uncle Sam takes his first for a reason. He takes his before, boom, as soon as the money hits, pow, and then you get what's left after that. Because he makes sure he get paid first. So you got to pay yourself first. So you get your check, you pay your taxes and all that, then you get your net pay. Actually, even before the net pay, because you can still invest in your retirement. You can get 401k with your company depending on who you work for. Sometimes they'll do a match. Sometimes they'll just give you some money to put towards your retirement. If it's a match, you want to make sure you maximize that. So if they match you all the way up to a certain percentage, you at least want to put that percentage in. Now, I would recommend way more than just that percentage. But at the bare minimum, you want to put that percentage in because that doubles your money. If they say we'll give you 3% match, you got to put in that 3%, and then now you got 6. That's free money, and it's pre-tax. So you got to use that to your advantage. You got to use all these tools at your disposal to pay yourself first. Even after that, after you put the money into the retirement, you still got to put some money over to the side, and then maybe a savings account. Some people call it a rainy day fund. You need to have a few $1,000s, or not even a few $1,000s. You can look at what you owe per month, how much money you pay, how much it costs you to live per month, and start saving up a month at a time. So it's like, all right, say for example, it takes $800 a month for me to take care of my bare essentials. Just a rough number. Says you it costs you $800 to live. So at $800, if you want to live comfortably, say for 6 months, that means you'll need what's that, $4,800 saved. Because if something happens and something occurs, you'll be able to be taken care of for 6 months with $4,200. If it costs you $800, if it costs you more, you need to do the math on it. If it costs you $1,000 a month to live, well, you probably need about 6,000 saved. So at this point, say you get paid weekly, um, how long would it take you to get to having 6 months of money set aside? So you got to decide how quick do you need it? How quick do you want to get to that point where you feel secure? Because I'll be honest with you, if you got 6 months worth of expenses saved, it takes a big weight off of your shoulders, and you can tap into that money whenever you need it, and you don't have to worry about uh, looking to use credit or something like that, or having to sacrifice something else. If you got your 6 months worth of money saved up, your rainy day fund, we'll call it. That's what most people call it, rainy day fund. If you got your 6 months, and it doesn't even have to be 6 months, you can work your way to 6 months. But you definitely need to put a certain amount of money aside on every time you get paid and put it towards that. Like that, pay yourself first. That's your initial payment and build that up. Once you got that built, then you can start moving on to other things. And you'll realize, like, wow, I feel better by having that 6 months of money stacked up, and I don't have to stress about not knowing if I'm going to be able to pay the bills next month. So you got to put something aside, even if you only got $25, $100, whatever it is. You got to put that money aside and be disciplined about it, and always put that money in there, no matter what. You always drop that money in there. You always get paid. You don't want to work every day, go to work 5, 6, 7 days a week or whatever, just to have nothing at the end of it, or be scared that if you lose your job, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's like if you get fired, if something happened, you got 6 months worth of money. You'll be straight. You got a little bit of time to be able to do something, to be able to figure something out, to be able to reorganize, to be able to restructure your life and get back on track. Once you got a few months of money saved, or maybe several months, or maybe uh, a year or so, now you're in the bracket of wealth. How much money do I have over a certain period of time? So if you do the 800, if you're living off the 800 a month, do the 4,800, then you have 6 months worth of wealth. Difference between wealth and income is income comes and it goes. Wealth is how much time your money is going to last you. Like, I got enough money to last me a certain amount of time, because time is your most valuable asset, right? So how long will my money last me? If all the money stopped right now, the wealth is how long the money will last. Then when you're talking about generational wealth, okay, so 10, 20 years worth of money, 40 years worth of money, 100 years worth of money. That's when you're talking really, really getting into the bracket of wealth, actual wealth. Because if you don't have anything to pass on after you're gone, like if you only got enough money to make it to the week and you live in paycheck to paycheck, that's not a good circumstance to live in. It's stressful, and it actually ends up taking time off of your life. It's too stressful. Me personally, I live in a community or environment where it's a necessity to have transportation. We don't have a transit system. No trains. Got buses, but they don't really run all the time. They don't run everywhere. Um, I live in a city that doesn't have a central area where you can do everything, like a real downtown where you can get your groceries, where you can do your shopping, where you can, you can take care of all your business, where you can handle everything. So I live in an area where you have to have a car. You have to have a car. Okay, so few ways that you can buy cars, right? You can go pay cash. You can take a risk going and buying one used, paying cash. You can do that financing stuff where they like the buy here, pay here. Um, you can do go to a dealership, one of the larger dealerships. You go to a dealership and they'll put you on whatever company they're using. They'll give you a credit account with them. You can go to your own bank. You can go to the bank yourself, get yourself a loan. Now, this is what happens when you got good credit. You can go into the car lot, and you can like kind of call your own shots. You can kind of say, "I'm willing to pay this much. I want that car, and I'll give you this much a month for it. What can you do for me?" As opposed to walking in and saying, "I need a car. What can I afford?" So you letting them pick the car for you, right? Not only are they picking the car for you, they're making the terms to make it worth your while so that they can make it affordable for you. That costs you money. For them to make it affordable for you means that we're going to charge you interest at a higher rate because your credit isn't in a position where you got any leverage. You don't have any strength. You're the weak person coming in. Now you can be now the salesman and then the customer or the dealership, the sales dealer will say because the salesman is just like a middleman going through the dealership and the person. So if you come in a position of weakness, what can you possibly do? You're at their mercy, and then you'll end up paying for a car, overpaying for it because that's all you could get. You'll overpay. You'll pay outrageous interest charges. You probably won't build anything into your equity. You'll probably pay for years on top of years. Won't even own the car. You can still lose it. I mean, you could get it repossessed, lose all your money, they'll resell your car again, and somebody else will come up off of it. You got to be able to be in a position of strength where you can tell them, I've got such and such amount of money. Well, you don't even have to, don't ever tell them what you make, but if you handle it properly, you can go and get your own loan. And you come in there like, oh, I already got a loan through my bank, through my credit union. Credit unions usually get better rates. Or you can say, I found one online with some credit company or something like that. And you can say, all right, this is what it's going to cost me. And they'll let you know how much you'll be paying a month on that loan. As opposed to going in there and say, this will cost you that much a month, but you don't really know the finer details of what you'll actually be paying, right? So if you need to get a car, your credit needs to be straight. I made that mistake a couple times, thinking that my credit was good, but not knowing I could manipulate the situation. As I got older and I grew, and it was like, well, since I think I can just do this on my own and get my own loan, save myself some time at the dealership and tell them I want that car, and I just go in there and pick what I want, as opposed to going in there and saying, what can I get for this a month? Which isn't a bad situation. It's like we got that, and that. But depending on how much you got a month, it's like, yeah, we got that and that. But you need a car. Also, with a car, it's something that you should plan ahead. Um, Life on a car, I don't know, 7 to 10 years, maybe, if you're lucky. If that's the lifespan of a car, if you get a car today, you buy it brand new, you need to be thinking like, well, I need to be saving some money to the side, even though I'm paying for it. I still need to be preparing myself for when I get rid of this car. When this car doesn't work for me anymore. When this car isn't functional for me anymore. So at that point, you have to be ready prior to when it's time to get the car, or else you end up getting a car you don't want, or you end up paying for a car um, at a rate that isn't good for you, that isn't beneficial to you. Um, Another reason to get your credit straight is so that you don't have to get a cosigner. Sometimes when you get a car and they say your credit isn't good enough, it's like, well, I can afford it. Doesn't matter. Your credit history sucks. So we're going to need somebody else to co sign with you. So now you've got to ask somebody that you're close to take a risk on your credit with you. Now, if you got like a really close family member and they trust you, it's a good situation. But what if they don't want to put their name on that because that makes them actually liable if you don't pay? And it's not even a situation of trying to get over on somebody, but life happens, right? So if that person is willing to co-sign for you, and then something happens that you can't pay for, and then they end up liable for it, where does that put your relationship with that person after that? Like I said, cash flow problems are real. People have ups and downs. You got to be able to navigate and always be prepared for the down points. If you get the car and it's like, okay, if you're looking for a cosigner, like, look, I've got this amount of money saved up. I got my 3 to 6 months worth of money saved already. So you won't really have to worry about anything because I'm responsible. That'll put them in a better frame of mind, number one. And number two, it'll put you in a position where You don't have to destroy a relationship. Maybe you can even give them some collateral just in case, you know, pay them for their cosign, right? So, I mean, it's a lot of ways you can handle it. It's a lot of different approaches you can take, but those are just a couple reasons why you need to get your credit straight. Now, in the future, is episodes go on, and I'm going to be branching off into different areas. I'm going to be talking about different stuff. Um, I'm not going to make it just about finance. I'm going to make it about life. But if you think that your finances don't affect your life, you might be sadly mistaken. When somebody tells you that the money really don't matter, get some money and then see if they give it back. When somebody tells you, the love of money is the root of all evil, yeah, love of money is the root of all evil. But try to function without it in this capitalistic society that we live in. You're not going to get very far. So, thanks for listening in. That'll conclude this episode of Stark Reality. We'll be back to do it again next month.